Hey guys, this is Edward, and today we're going to be talking about exchange traded funds, and this is just going to be a basic introduction. So let's get started with our first slide. So first of all, definition, like as I always do, what are ETFs? So basically, ETFs are just a collection of securities that track some underlying index, right? And these indexes can track a range of things, such as the S&P 500, which I covered in a previous video, which is like a market index. And for example, that has an ETF called SPY, or commodities as well, such as gold or natural gas. These are all things that can be tracked by an underlying index and then is derivative by this ETF. So that means the ETF is based off this underlying index. So as you can see in this graphic right now, there are many different types of ETFs. And so you can see there's an index, like I said before, like S&P 500, so like SPY, like I said before, and commodity, like gold, oil, and corn. But there's also the inverse, which I'm going to talk about in a later slide, which I believe is a sort of special type of ETF. There's actively managed, there's industry, so it tracks like a whole entire industry. So it could be like, aerospace, or it could be like the automobile industry, all of that stuff in foreign markets. So you know how there's stock markets in Asia and in Europe, all those things, and then these ETFs will just track those types of market and not just the domestic United States markets, or many types of ETFs that you can trade. So we saw that in the previous slide, there was a type of ETF called the inverse, and so basically this is just the bear version of an ETF, and what this means is that it moves in the complete opposite direction um, of the Boole ETF. So you can see that TQQQ, the first one here, is our Boole ETF. So you can see when it goes up, SQQQ, which is our bear ETF, which is our inverse ETF, is going to go down. So you can see how they perfectly mirror each other. And what these do is it basically lets you just short a stock, which means you sell the stock first, and then you buy it back um, at a lower price to cover it. It just lets you short a stock without actually having to short it, and instead you can just trade the inverse ETF. So it's quite useful, and it really lets you take advantage of you know, long-term graphs and positions and, long-term patterns without actually having to short, which could be a little riskier. So it's a little nice type of ETF. Okay, and now I want to talk about leverage ETFs. So leverage ETFs are similar to the inverse ETF in that they are based off the basic ETF. But as you can see here, the leverage ETF, they move two times or three times more than the ETF. So say for example that a ETF moved up 1%, then a two times ETF, I have an inverse here, but let's just assume that it's just a regular ETF. A two times ETF would move up 2%, and a three times ETF would move up 3%. And so basically, and they use a collection of like leverage and borrowing against assets to achieve this. But basically, what you need to know if you want to trade these things is that basically it's just higher risk and high reward. So many, like for example, ETF like SPY, it doesn't move very much throughout the day. Very often um, I'll see that it probably moves up, I don't know, 1 to 2% each day. But a leverage ETF, like three times, it'll go up to like 6%. And what it does, it just makes it, yeah, like I said before, it makes it so it's higher risk and higher reward. So you can get, 1% or 2% on the day more quickly and more easily, but you have to keep in mind that on the other hand, you can also lose 1% to 2% more quickly and easily. So that's something to keep in mind when you're trying to trade these leverage ETFs. I would say that, yeah, just kind of build your way up to it. Maybe start off with one of the basic ETFs and then move it two times and three times so you can make sure that your trading strategy works and that you can make that money quickly without losing that much money with these more risky three times and two times ETFs. And now I want to talk about price decay. So price decay is I guess, kind of unique characteristic of these ETFs. And it is also a reason why you don't want to hold an ETF for too long and why ETFs are really only for day trading or for very short um, positions, maybe like 1 to 2 days, I would say, maybe max. I mean, that's all that I've done, maybe 1 to 2 days max. I've never really done like a week or month long hold of these ETFs, and you'll see why very quickly. So, leverage ETFs. So let's just say, and okay, this is the problem with leverage ETFs. And so let's just say, okay, you can see at day one, say the Nasdaq 100 right here, Nasdaq 100 index. So this is what the ETF leverage ETF is going off of. Let's say the Nasdaq 100 index is trading at $100. So that's the original price. It's $100. And then that day it gains 25% in a crazy day, and boom. Suddenly the index is now sitting at a nice $125. And you can see here, $100 times 25%, $25 additional, and then 100 plus 25 is $125. So if TQQQ, which is starting at the exact same price as the Nasdaq 100 index, let's just say, and Nasdaq 100 almost it never moves that. This is just a hypothetical situation. It never moves that much in one day, but let's just say for our situation, um, so you guys can understand. So 25% times three, so that's 75% because it's a three times leverage ETF, right? So it moves up 75%. So now its price is $175. So because it's a three times ETF, it moves up way more than the original index, right? And then on the second day, the index tanks. So, oh man, maybe something, unthinkable like a pandemic happens. Whoa, and a scary virus is let loose. And who knows? You know, what a crazy situation, right? And the index drops 20%. So 20% of $125 is $25. So the index is now back to $100. So right now it's back to its current price. You can see my math here, $125 times the negative 20%, which is negative $25. So 125 minus 25 is $100. So now it's back to its original price. But because TQQQ, which is a three times leverage ETF, it's gonna go down 60%. So you can see that $175 times 60% is actually minus $105. So it slides down way more than um, than the original index of the Nasdaq 100 index. So you can see here that the stock goes all the way down to $70. So even though the Nasdaq 100 and the Nasdaq 100 had no change, TQQQ had a 30% change from the original $100. So it lost 30% of its value even though it's the same. It just even though all that happens is that it just leveraged the ETF time by three. So you can see that, and although it never happens this quickly, you can see that as tiny price movements along the days, moves around and around, the price will slowly and slowly start to decay and start to go down. And it'll be completely different, and after a while, it just becomes completely different from the original index. So yeah, the small changes do add up. And often to counteract this, I've seen that these leverage ETFs often go through reverse stock splits to bring their value up to a decent level and to bring it back to the level of the index, and so that it can actually properly mirror it. And so what this means is, if you don't know what a reverse stock split means, it basically means that it just merges a few shares of stock into one. So it increases the value of each individual stock, but decreases the total amount of stock available. So the total market cap, which is what all the shares outstanding, all the stocks together, still add up to the same value, but there's just less stocks available. And so, yeah, that's basically all you need to know about ETFs. And I really hope that I helped you get another green day, or, more properly understand what these ETFs are and how to trade them. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down in the comments below. I read all comments and I'll reply to your comment. You don't have to worry about that. And if you really like what I do, then please subscribe. So that's all. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.